Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to Bookmas day 10, I believe. I don't know, I'm not sure, I lost count. In today's video I'm going to be going over the books that I gave a 5-star or above, like my 6-star reads in 2024. I know it looks like a lot, but it's actually propped up for my thumbnail. I just took it. In terms of me being a reader, I feel like I'm a pretty new booktuber, but I've been like reading for basically all my life. So you might see a lot of the books that you already love in this video just because I got into like book talk, booktube, and bookstagram like beginning of this year. So I've been seeing the trends and everything, so you might have read most of these books already, so like just sit back and relax and listen to me talk. And in terms of my rating scale of what is a 5-star, a 5-star is like a book that makes me feel things. Like I like it when a book makes me feel things. Like one minute I'm laughing and giddy and the next minute I'm like bawling my eyes out. That's a 5 stars. Also, like if I connect with the characters, also relate with the characters, that's a 5-star, even a 6-star read. And also like I just like enjoy it in general because like reading, it's supposed to be enjoyable. So read books that are enjoyable to you. That's what I found hard this year because I started like reading books that were like popular on like TikTok. Everyone's hyping them up. Everyone's saying it's like the best book they've ever had. I have differing opinions and sometimes I didn't like it. So at the beginning of the year, I feel like my rating on books were a little bit more lenient. Like I was giving 5 stars here and there. Like it just everyone gets a 5 stars. But throughout this year, I've learned like what I like and what I look for in books that makes it a 5 stars. So we're gonna be going through the books, the date on when I read them. So, and also we'll talk about if it's still like a 5-star for me or it's changed, stuff like that. We'll see if I like remember half these books. The first book that I read that I gave a 5 stars, I think it's a series, but like when I read it, it came in one book, and that is the Mindfuck series. I did read this on my Kindle because it was Kindle Limited. I had like individual ratings for each book, but overall I gave this series a 5 stars, and I read this in January, beginning of this year. So this book, from what I remember, this book follows Lana and Logan. Lana is our female main character and she's a serial killer. She's going down her list of people to murder essentially because they owe her a pretty huge debt. She has like a specific MO, so like the police and FBI investigating the case knows it's one person doing it, and they're trying to figure out like how is this connected because like it's different people from different cities. They don't know how it's connected. And Logan is their male main character. He is the FBI agent on her case trying to like track her down, and she ends up dating him. That's the plot. I think from what I remember reading this book, I think it's still a 5-star for me. It's really the books or series that really got me into reading again. It's like dangerous love, like enemies to lovers. I don't know, I think they hated each other at first. I'm not sure, I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. There's just a lot of sneaking around and like secrecy. I love how he underestimates her, but like she is the typical strong female character that needs no man protecting her. Like I love books like that, so still definitely a 5 stars. The next book is at literally the very bottom of this pile, so I'm just gonna, you shouldn't be surprised when you see this. The next book I gave a 5 stars is Fourth Wing. I think back in January or February is when this book like blew up on TikTok. Even my friends were reading it and they were like, oh my god, it's so good. I was actually in the middle of reading Akatar and my friend was like, you need to read this, and I was like, yeah, I'm on board. So I ordered it on Amazon and I got like the black sprayed edge. This book, yes, it's still a 5-star for me. If you don't already know, I feel like everyone and their mother knows about this book. This book follows Violet and Xaden. They both go to this like war school, and Violet's mom is like she's like a higher up person like in the office. Like she basically runs the school. It kind of reminds me of Divergent a little bit and Hunger Games. There's different sections that people can go into: healers quadrant, infantry quadrant, scribe quadrant, and then there's the writers quadrant. Violet has been trained to be like a scribe by her father all her life, but her mother forces her to go into the writers quadrant, which is like basically a death sentence because less than half of the people who go to that die within the first day because they have to like go through this obstacle course just to make it onto the school where it's based. Violet's like that odd one out of the group. She's not as trained as the others. She's shorter. She's not as strong, but you know, people underestimate her, and she's told from the very beginning to stay away from Xaden Ryerson. Obviously that doesn't happen, and then there's a lot of things that happen between them. I'm pretty sure this is like an enemies to lovers because they hated each other at first. And the other enjoyable thing about this book is the dragons. The dragons are like so funny. I love Tarn or Tarn. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I love him. He's so funny. It just like adds to the whole atmosphere and vibe of the book. I love it. Still a 5 stars. The next book, not surprising either, you've seen this book. I bet you've seen this book before, and that is Happy Place by Emily Henry. I also read this back in January, I believe. This book follows Win and Harriet. Win and Harriet met in college. They like fell in love with each other, and I think they got married. They have this group of friends who they go on vacation with every summer to this like little cottage house that one of their friends owns, and now the cottage is being put up for sale, so they're gonna have their like one last summer vacation in that cottage. But the friends don't know that Harriet and Win broke up, so they have to like pretend to be together. They're still trying to work out how to like tell their friends. This book is such like a cute little romance. It's a second chance romance, and I think it really helped me at the time when I read this book, because I was like, I am 20, I don't know what I'm doing. Is this what I want to do with my life? And this book just like showed me that like change is not like a bad thing, and starting over is not a bad thing. It's never too late to start over and to what you really want in your life. And that just like really opened my eye and like changed my perspective at that specific time in my life. I also loved the newfound like family aspect in this, because they found like family in each other, like a group of friends. Like they really connect on a deeper level, and they look out for each other. They're always there. And I know like a lot of people have differing opinions, but for me it's still a 5 star. You're gonna hate me again for this next book series. It's a series. I gave it a 5 star. The ACOTAR series. This book series opened a whole new like door for me, because this book series led to like 16 other books that I'm currently reading by this author. It's dangerous. If you fall into like reading this, someone convinces you to read this, there's 5 more books, and after that there's an 8 book series called The Throne of Glass, and after that there's a Crescent City series. Yeah, I fell into that trap. Anyways, I'm not even gonna explain what this book is about. It's about humans and fairies. That's all I'm gonna say. I gave this a 5 stars at the moment, like after I read it, because it was like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I absolutely love Beauty and the Beast. After reading the rest of the series though, I don't know if this is still a 5 star, but I'm gonna leave it at 5 stars because it led me to this wonderful book called A Court of Mist and Fury. This is where I met Rhysand or Rhysand. I say it Rhysand because it just sounds right in my brain. I know it's supposed to be Rhysand, but oh my god, this is my favorite book out of this whole series. This book made me cry. It made me giddy. Like, it made me mad. Just all the emotions. I don't even have to say anything. You know what this is about. Chapter like 53 or 54 to 55. Yeah. I also gave the third book a 5 star because, I don't know, a lot of people didn't like this. I surprisingly liked it. I didn't think that I would like the like political side and war side of like fantasy books, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. Like, I was crying. I was like on the edge of my seat. I'm like, please don't die. It is a little bit slow at first, but the last 100 pages, oh my god. These two, let's not talk about it. The next book I gave a 5 stars. It's also a book series, and that is the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. This book series follows our main character Pip. I think is like a senior in high school in this book. She basically goes around town solving open cases or cold cases for the town because the police can do it. The way her brain works and connects things, I'm like, how does she do this? I have all the clues in front of me. She shows me all her clues and what she's got, and then she makes connections, and I'm like, if I was looking at this and I was trying to solve this, it would say cold, or I would just like not get anywhere, because how does one make those specific connections? I'm like, wow, I must be really dumb. Anyways, in this first book, she solves a cold case in her town about a high school girl who was murdered, allegedly by her boyfriend. She solves that, and I really love this book. I gave it a 6 stars. It was fast-paced, easy to read, and it was intriguing. This one, oh my god, ripped my heart out. Also a 6 star. And this one I actually just read yesterday, and I'm so upset. I gave this a 4 stars just because I didn't expect a really good series to end like that. It was so out of character for the main character to do what she did in this book, so I gave it a 4 stars. Like, I don't know. I'm still like thinking about it, but am I the only one? If you read this series, did you like the ending? The next book is not just a 5 star read, it's a 6 star read, and that is The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston. This was the first book I read by her, and oh my god, I was crying. It was so good. This book is like a contemporary romance mixed with like magic realism, and it's just perfect. Like, from the first page to the end, it was perfect. Clementine West inherits her late aunt's apartment. Apparently this apartment is magical. Like, she didn't believe it at first, but apparently this apartment travels back in time 7 years or forward 7 years, and she meets this guy who rented from her aunt like 7 years ago, and they essentially fall in love. Their love is contained in this apartment because once she opens the door, he just disappears. This was just such a cute story. I loved the idea behind this. It was unique. Definitely recommend if you haven't read it. The next book I gave a 5 stars is part of a series, and I just ended up giving that series like a 5-star rating, even though I didn't give all the books a 5-star, and that is the Caraval trilogy. These books basically is about 2 sisters named Donatella and Stella, and they've always dreamed about going to Caraval. Caraval is like this magical game that you have to be invited to, hosted by this guy named Legend. Caraval is like a set of trials or game that they have to go through to win the game, and at the end the winner gets a wish from Legend, and that's what they're trying to do. In this first book, Donatella goes missing, and she is the person they need to find in order to win Caraval. So the older sister Stella plays the game trying to find her. In Legendary, I think this one is one of my favorites in the series. The 2 sisters again play Caraval, but like there's more at stake. It's like more mixing into reality. It's not just like a game anymore. And then the final book, oh my god, I gave this a 6 star. I know a lot of people didn't like this because it veered away from like the idea of a Caraval and these magical games, but this one was just like heavy on the romance, and I really loved that. Like, I think it was like a good way to end the book. Spectacular. It was the holiday novella, and it was just like a sweet, cute little holiday read. I really enjoyed it. I read it for one of my videos. If you haven't watched that, I'll link it up here. I had to take a break because I had to take a few Tums. My acid reflux was acting up. Anyways, the next book that I rated a 5 stars, it is very like a controversial book, a lot of mixed reviews online, and that is Magnolia Parks. This, I was told, is like British Gossip Girl, and I absolutely ate it up. If you look at it from like a real world point of view or like reality point of view, this book is so toxic. All the characters need therapy. They're like, newfound family? No, the family is not found. Like, they are not a family. They are so toxic to each other. They make each other's mental health like significantly worse. And this book is about Magnolia and BJ, and essentially it's just a whole toxic relationship. They're famous people in London, and they were together at one point, but they broke up. We don't know why they broke up, and they just like fight in public, causes a scandal, and it's just crazy. The reason why I like this book is for the entertainment purpose. Like, I felt like I was reading like a reality TV show. I love reality TV. That's why I gave it a 5 stars. There's a lot of differing opinions online, but like, if you enjoy it, go ahead. I enjoyed it. It was just very dysfunctional, but I love that about it. The next book I gave a 5 stars. It's on my shelf right now. It's right there, and that is Assassin's Blade. Is basically the prequel to the Throne of Glass series. I actually was debating for the longest time like what order I should read this in, because the Assassin's Blade you can read first, because technically it's the prequel. You can read it 3rd or 4th. It depends. It all depends on you how you want to read it, but I don't regret reading it first because it tells you about our main character, Selena Sardothian. She is basically the greatest assassin in the world, but she's only 16 years old. So yeah, she's gone through a lot of things in her life at a very young age. And this book completely broke me. Like I said, I don't regret reading it first, because in Throne of Glass, the first book, basically tells you what happens in that book. Like, I feel like it spoils the biggest plot twist, and my heart just broke for her. I'm not finished with that series. I'm now on the tandem read, so I'm reading Empire Storms and Tower Dawn. I haven't started it. I don't know when. I don't want to start it because I don't want it to end, if you know what I mean. It's just that good, but I'm predicting it's a 5 star. It's a 5-star series for sure. The next book I gave a 5 stars to is 2 books by the same author, and that is The Unhoneymooners and the Paradise Problem by Christina Lauren. These books are so amazing. Like, they're the perfect like summer beach read. So in this book, Olive's sister is getting married. She's the maid of honor, and Ethan is the best man, and they just hate each other. So basically everyone who attended the wedding gets food poisoning because there was like something bad with the food. It was a buffet, except for the 2 of them, because Olive, I think, has allergies, and Ethan just like does not like buffets because of like the germs and like sanitary things that go around buffets, because people go around touching the food. So then there's like this trip up for grabs. The bride and groom, they're sick, they can't go on their honeymoon, so Olive and Ethan decide to take the honeymoon. They have to pretend that they're newlyweds because I think the whole trip is like centered around like a honeymoon and like they got discounts and stuff like that. This book was just so funny and cheesy, and I don't know what else to say. It was really good. I read it in one sitting and I would still give it a 5 stars. I love Christine Lauren, so if you haven't read this, definitely you should pick it up in the summertime. The next book, The Paradise Problem, amazing. It was another 5-star read. I read this recently when I went to Mexico, and this book follows Anna and Liam. Anna and Liam basically end up getting married so they can get subsidized housing in college. Anna is from like a low income family. She has to pay for everything. Her dad's also undergoing like cancer treatment, so she has to pay for that. It just like worked out for her because cheap rent. But Wes is like this nepo baby who is from a very rich family. Their family owns like a chain of grocery stores, which I was like, why does he need subsidized housing if he's rich? But apparently his dad ended up not supporting him because he didn't end up doing the degree that the father wanted, because I think the dad wanted him to take over the business, but he didn't want to. He wanted to pursue something else that he was passionate about. And then after like college, they divorce and get on with their lives. But that's what Anna thinks. 3 years later, she sees Liam again and he needs her help. He's been pretending that he's been married all these years and his sister's getting married, and the family really wants to meet his wife, Anna, who has no idea this whole thing's going on. The reason why is because his grandfather left this huge sum of money, or his like left him like a trust fund, and in order to get access to that trust fund, he has to be married. So yeah, this book was so funny too. It went by really fast. The writing flowed easily. Like, it was just like the perfect book to read on a beach. Talking about books that are perfect to be read on the beach, the next book I gave a 5-star to is Beach Read. Is that surprising? Probably not. I'm gonna quickly sum this up because I feel like a lot of people already know what this book is about. It follows Augustus and January. They end up being each other's neighbors in this small town, beach town. They're both authors. Augustus is a literary fiction author and January writes romance. They're both in this writing slump, so they challenge each other to write a book in each other's genres, and this challenge or game that they're playing brings them like closer and closer to each other, and you know what happens after that. This book was just like a really nice like palate cleanser, because I think I read this in between fantasy books and I also read this on the beach, and it was just like amazing. It was a quick read, it was easy to read, it was a page turner. Yeah, I have nothing else to say. It's still 5 stars for me. The next book I read also is a summer read and I absolutely loved it. It's still 5 stars in my heart, and that is Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. This was just so sweet and wholesome. This is a childhood friends to lovers trope. It follows 2 characters named Percy and Charlie. Percy's family ends up purchasing this lake house in a small town, and she meets the next door neighbors, which are 2 brothers named Sam and Charlie. From that day on, Percy and Charlie were inseparable. They were best friends. This book is told over 6 summers. They end up fostering a relationship, and something happens that just completely destroys them. It was heartbreaking, but the ending made up for it, and it was just like fresh a breath of air for me. It was so good. If you haven't read it, please read it, especially in the summertime. Okay, the next book I gave a 5 stars to is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book was just like perfection from the start and finish. It is about a society filled with people called the elites who have powers. Decades prior to this, there was a plague that happened that basically granted these people their powers, but some people that did survive the plague were not granted any powers, and they're just called the ordinaries, and they're basically like shunned and like killed because the king did not deem them worthy enough to be part of his kingdom. And that's where our main character Peyton Gray comes in. Peyton is an ordinary. She poses as a psychic, and she's just very good at reading people and observing people. She is homeless. She lives in the slums. She has nobody, and one day she unwittingly saves Prince Kai, one of the king's son, and that's when she's known as the Silver Savior, and she's basically like chosen to be part of the trials that the kingdom holds every year to basically showcase their powers. Essentially, she has to survive the trials without letting anyone know of her secret that she's an ordinary, so it's very dangerous for her. A lot of like popular fantasy books that I have noticed on TikTok and like other platforms, they're famous because there's like a lot of like spice in them, but this book had 0 to little spice. It didn't even have any spice. There was like a few kisses here and there. Oh my god, there's like a little love triangle going on. Yeah, so if you're looking for that type of fantasy, I totally recommend this. I already have a second book right there. and I'm planning to read it pretty soon. The next few books are different from what I usually read. Like, I'm actually surprised that I loved it. I gave this series a 5 stars, and that is the Heartstopper novels. And I've just been hearing a lot about this recently, and there's also that new Netflix show that came out that I want to watch, but I wanted to read the books first. And it was amazing. Like, I never thought in my life that I would love graphic novels, but this book really did it for me. Like, I'm looking for my next graphic novel read already just because of this. And this book follows 2 characters named Nick and Charlie. This is my first like boy meets boy trope, and it was just so amazing. This whole series was so heartwarming and wholesome. It does talk a lot about like heavy topics, so before you read it you might want to like check the trigger warnings. This series just allowed me to turn my mind off and just enjoy the graphics and like the book, because I didn't have to like imagine or make up a world in my mind of like where these characters could be and like what they're looking at and all those things. It was just all there right for me. It felt like I was watching a movie. Definitely recommend that. Let me know if you have any other graphic novel recs. The last 3 books that I gave a 5 stars to is part of a series, I guess, or they can be standalones, and that is the Part of Your World series by Abby Jimenez. I think Abby Jimenez is my favorite romance author at the moment. She wrote these 3 books which I absolutely fell in love with. They're all 6-star reads for me, but I don't think you have to read them in order or any specific order. If you want to, like, they can be standalones, but for me I would recommend reading them in order because it's just so good. Also because the characters show up in the different books, so it might spoil the other books for you if you haven't read it. The first book, Part of Your World, is about Alexis and Daniel. This is a small town romance and also an age gap romance. She is, I think, 10 years older than him, so that's like my first book that I've read where the female main character is older than our male main character, and they're basically from 2 different worlds. He's a small town farm guy and she is a city girl. She is from like this rich family of doctors and physicians, and she just thinks that her family wouldn't approve of him because they want her to date someone on her level. That's what the dad said, and it was just a sweet story. I love the goat. And the second book is Yours Truly. This one is about Brianna. Brianna is Alexis's best friend from the first book. So we do see Alexis and Daniel in this book, and this new character named Jacob. So they're both doctors, they're both emergency physicians, and they're basically after the same job, and it just is not the ideal situation for Brianna because she was supposed to get this job and now there's this new guy who they're offering this job to. I think what I loved about this book is how this book kind of talked about men's mental health. I feel like that's not like a popular topic that we talk about in society, but it is a very real thing. Jacob has really bad anxiety and he gets anxious around people and making a bad first impression, which is what he does. All the doctors and the nurses hate him, and apparently he's called like Dr. Death because there's always someone who dies when he's on shift. But he's just anxious and he makes a bad first impression with Brianna, so he starts writing her notes and letters so that like he can get to know her and like get on the right foot because they're gonna have to work together. And the notes were just so sweet. He explained that like it's better for him to write because it takes away like the anxiety of having to talk to someone, especially when that someone doesn't like you, and he just let his feelings out on paper and he leaves these cute little notes everywhere for her. It was just such a cute story as well. And the last book, oh my god, can you tell I loved it? Yeah. This one came out this summer, and this follows 2 new characters named Emma and Justin. Emma is a travel nurse, which I loved because I want to be a travel nurse one day. And Justin, I think, is like a engineer of some sort, and they have one thing in common. They are both cursed. Essentially, like the people they date, when they break up, the next day they find their soulmate or their one true love. So they decide to formulate a plan and come together to date each other because they think that that will cancel out both their curses and they can just go on with their lives and find their true soulmate. And I feel like that's such a unique story. And you know how they met? They met on Justin's Reddit thread because apparently he's popular. Girls want to date him so they can find their soulmate the next day. Like, it was just, I don't even know how to explain this story. It was just so good. That's all I'm gonna say. If you didn't listen to anything I said in this video, do me one favor, And if you haven't read these books, please read it because oh my god, they're amazing. They're one of my favorite books this year. Abby Jimenez is a new book coming out and I'm so excited for that. Like once that comes out, I will be reading it and I'm hoping it's another 6-star read. Anyways, that brings us to the end of this video. I definitely had a lot of Goodreads this year. I haven't met my Goodreads book challenge yet, but I'm like only 5 books away and I still have like a lot more December to go. These are just the books that I enjoyed throughout this year, the books that I gave 5 stars that really captivated me and made me feel something, because like sometimes I'm a robot and I feel like I don't feel things when I read books, but I think it's just because I'm not picking up the right books, and these books definitely made my love for reading even deeper or bigger. If you stayed this long into the video, oh my god, I'm so proud of you, because I don't know if I can watch myself talk for this long. I think I was talking for like 2 hours. I had to take breaks because I talk too much. I definitely like went over my word count for the day, but if you're still here at this point of the video, comment the goat emoji. Is there a goat emoji? There is a goat emoji. Yeah, comment the goat emoji if you're still here so I know who stays till the end. I'm gonna go now because I'm tired and hungry. So I'll see you tomorrow for a new video.